So there were lots of moments where we worked things out.
Yes.
But one example was I was a facilitator for what we call a PAR program, the Partner Abuse Response Program, where there are men who are mandated by the court to come and get group counseling. So
Yes.
I was a facilitator. I was about 31 years old, and I'm leading this group with my female counterpart, Stephanie. She was absolutely wonderful. But to be honest, Joan, when I got into that room with those angry men, I felt like a little boy
Mm.
every time. I felt scared every time I went to work. I was a glutton for punishment. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be facilitating the group and I'm scared. But
Yes.
literally, I was 31, but I felt like an 8-year-old boy when the anger would come towards me
Yes.
because that's how I felt as a little boy.
Right.
I grew up in an environment where men,
Mm.
the leaders of any group, whether it was my dad or church,
Mm.
they presented a certain way. They
Mm.
were they I knew them as angry.
Yes.
I
Yes.
knew them as aggressive. And
Yes.
I was a small little boy and I just didn't measure up. And I carried that with me for all those years. And it wasn't until that moment when I was facilitating one day when, the anger was directed at me and I kind of did what I was trained to do.
Yes.
And then afterwards, my facilitating partner, Stephanie, said, "You did such a good job with that." I reflected, I was like, "Oh, I
Mm.
did.
Mm-hmm.
I did do that. Whoa, that was good. I didn't lose my cool. I didn't, try to condescend to him. I didn't match the. I was like, that's meek. That
Yeah.
that's like Jesus. I like that guy. And I
Yes.
was like, oh, wait, oh, this is me.
That's you.
And then I started to do different things like, my voice is pretty deep. I could feel the resonance in my chest. I was like, oh snap, I'm like a full grown man. Like, oh my goodness. And
Right?
I was starting
Yeah.
to catch up,
Mm.
right? It was all those. I believe that trauma has the ability to press pause on our emotional development.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
when
Absolutely.
I was revisiting that, I was just like releasing that and growing and catching up, so to speak. So that's one example of, again, I didn't really do the talking to him myself, but what I did was made the recognition, oh, this is who I am.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's so interesting, even in my therapeutic sessions, to now take a feeling like I hate myself and have my clients say that like over and over again, and then locate the places in their bodies where that emotion is resting, and then saying it until they push it through that organ. And then, of course, it goes somewhere else. And so then you push through to the next organ and then the next organ until it's just kind of like a floodplain, just a soup of emotions. And then asking the question, okay, ask your body to guide you to the place where that began, and then always them being able to then go back. And it's always childhood, it's never anything else, right?
Mhm.
It's always childhood, that pre-teen, that even before 8 or 7, it's always in those very, very moments where you couldn't really maneuver language, you couldn't really maneuver the strength of other people. It was just you, and you
Mhm.
soaked in a whole bunch of stuff. But it's always so freeing to have that conversation with the younger child and say, hey, like, you're not hated. In fact, you're loved. And in fact, I want you to remember something. And here's the thing, you are loved forever and ever and ever and ever. Right. And so it's
Mhm.
powerful to hear you talk about, just even the trigger that you experience in that moment. And I have a thing I say now, which is invest in the triggers, right? Invest in the triggers, because the triggers are going to teach you something about the past that's going to strengthen you right now in the present. And it sounds like that's exactly what you did. You were able to, see it, feel it, take it in, then go back to the past really quickly, come back and recognize how strong you are right now, and almost get caught up with the recognition that you are strong and you are powerful, and that you can actually manage this in a way that you can manage it before.
Exactly. And I think that's the critical piece because we're not aware, like you said, of the what has happened to us as children. We don't have the capacity to to contextualize it. We
Yeah.
don't have the language to say this is that, or I feel this way or that, and we internalize it and we think that this is me.
Yeah.
Whereas now, as a mature and maturing person, you can reflect and tease that apart. Say, okay, this is me, and this is what happened to me.
Yes. Yes.
And now we can reconcile the two and live
Yes.
free. So
Yes.
yeah, I'm so glad that you do what you do with people. You have such a wonderful way of moving deep and quick with people. I'm always amazed at it. Tell me
Sometimes
more,
I'm
Joan. Tell
amazed
me more.
too. But it really is the move of the spirit. And as I have done my own work of healing, what I have found is that what others would call clairvoyance, right? But it's that intuition, it's that knowing, it's sometimes having that vision in the moment to say this is what is going on with that individual, and just being able to be sensitive enough to that, right? And so I
Mhm.
think it's also powerful, the work that you're doing with your coaching. So one of the reasons why we're even having this conversation is because, part of the calling that I think you have and I have is really to speak to the generation that is coming up now, to help
Yeah.
our Black boys and our Black girls. And we want to help so much more people. But I think being Black people, we recognize the struggle that we have as a people. And I think it's always important to start at home before you go abroad, right? And so, the goal of our show is really to tap into the Black soul, to recognize that there is such a deep spiritual yearning that all of us have. And there's a way that we connect that is so, I don't know what you call it. It's just, you can't describe it in any way other than to kind of, see the wave and the back and forth that comes with us. And so, as you think about the Black family, as you think about our fathers, as you even think about mothers, what are you desiring for our families, and how are you planning and wanting to participate in kind of the healing work that so many of us have to do?
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, um, that healthy communication is healing communication, and how we respond to emotional pain and injury is really, really important. And
Yeah.
I think as a people, and I know other nationalities can relate, and they have their own ways, but we
Yeah.
survived a whole lot by being strong,
Yeah.
and there's very little time and attention given to the pain,
Yeah.
right? So we carry it.
Yeah.
And I think what I love doing and seeing, even in my own family, is the changing of generational patterns.
Yeah.
So I will talk a little bit about my dad, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, So my parents, they were divorced when I was around 13, but I was 8 again when I realized, oh, this isn't gonna last. This isn't gonna
Yeah.
last.